Why is it so difficult to make a livelihood? Why is it there's such a struggle? So, where did the struggle begin? Anybody know? Well, when they got kicked out of Gan Eden, exactly. In Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, there was no struggle. Right? Adam and Eve had a garden, God's garden, that was totally a holy place, that everything was there for the taking. They get kicked out of the Garden of Eden, exactly. And what does God say to Adam? By the sweat of your brow, right? You're gonna, yeah, you will have your daily bread. And so began the struggle. So is it a punishment? It seems to be a punishment, right? In other words, God gave us a gift, Gan Eden. We didn't, Adam and Eve didn't appreciate it or didn't fulfill the one commandment, which was to not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. You blew it. So what's the conclusion? Guess what? You're going to have to work hard now.
He blew it. They blew it and we pay for it.
Yeah. And you've been paying ever since. Yeah. Is that the way to look at it? With a child's view, that's the way we look at the story. Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zurich and Kedeshim in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya, a place where we don't view the world as children. Place that the Alter Rebbe allows us to become adults. Not just adults, but godly individuals who can have a view of the world the way God does. First of all, yeah, but on that level, we're not even a 5-year-old. No, what it means for in Chumash Rashi for a 5-year-old, it means just that it should be understandable even for a 5-year-old. Now, there's a simple meaning means understandable on a 5-year-old level. That's what it means. It doesn't mean that it is 5-year-old stuff. It can be totally adult, right? But yet, that even the mind of a 5-year-old who's it's got to be a brilliant mind of a 5-year-old, but yet a 5-year-old can understand. Yeah. But I saw a YouTube clip of someone who was speaking about how we grow physically, but sometimes our emotional maturity still remains that of an 8-year-old, right? Yeah. So our perspective on life can remain like an 8-year-old. So, for example, the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve being kicked out of there is a horrific punishment. As a child, you will see it that way, right? As when a parent punishes a child and says, for what you did, you need to do such and such, they will see it as a terrible punishment. Whereas if it was a mature child, they would see it as the parent, thank you, helping the child to become better, right? Helping them to become better. That would be mature, right? So we're in chapter 37. In chapter 37, the Alter Rebbe is speaking about that it's how it's depending on us. Final redemption, changing the world for good. Mashiach now. It's totally dependent on us. And as that we transform the world, it's about not just self-transformation, but it's about transforming the material of this world too, that we use the material, right, to for a higher purpose, for the sake of a mitzvah, right? L'chaim. We were just privileged to have breakfast over here by our dear friend Shmuel in Caesar's Palace. We had a wonderful breakfast, and we ate breakfast here to give us strength so we could learn Tanya better, that we could learn Torah better, do mitzvahs better. So we elevate the food because it becomes our flesh and blood, it becomes what gives us strength, and that is elevating everything, even the material. Says now the Alter Rebbe something fascinating, that with this, that the physical act of mitzvahs elevate the physical body and the animal soul, which means that when I'm wrapping my arm to put on tefillin, right, lighting Shabbos candles and the like, what's happening? The physical limbs of the body and the animal soul that gives the vitality are absorbed in the light of God. The light of God, which is powerful. And again, the food and the drink and everything that provided the energy or the capability to do the mitzvah. So you're visiting someone in the hospital, right? The car that you use to drive there, or this morning, Leslie, you came by car, so your car became a mitzvah mobile because it served a greater purpose, not for your pleasure, but for your divine service. You drove your, coming with your car here, right? But here it says, Alter Rebbe, quoting from the sages, with this we can understand why the sages extolled the virtue of charity, tzedakah, declaring it equal to all other mitzvahs. Equal. As the Talmud Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, calls charity simply the commandment, the mitzvah. It's the, right? Meaning, it is it. Now why? What is it about tzedakah? More than tefillin, more than Shabbos, more than anything, that it surpasses. Why? Because it is the ultimate thing that has action involved in it. What does that mean? Well, remember what we said yesterday. Why did your soul come down into this world? How come? David, what are you here for? No. That's the means. Connect is correct. Connect what? To elevate our animal soul, vital soul slash vital soul and body. Our godly soul doesn't need to be elevated. It's a part of God. It didn't come here for its own sake. It came here for the sake of my vital soul and animal soul and body, to elevate it, because it's animated by klipas noiga, and through the act of a mitzvah, as you said, right, it becomes elevated. That's the purpose of the mitzvah, right? To absorb our body and soul in the Ein Sof light. Well, there's no mitzvah like tzedakah that does that. Why? Because when I'm putting on tefillin, it's just the movement of the arm, right? You're lighting Shabbos candle, it's a limb that's involved. But the money that you have, right? It's not just about extending your hand and giving the money, but the money that you have, the toil that you had to go, right? After all, we were kicked out of the Garden of Eden. We're no longer, money on trees. That's where the idea comes from, right? Because everything was there. God gave it all. So being kicked out of the Garden of Eden, what God was giving us, that we have to work hard now, toil for the money that we have. Which, who's toiling? Your body and your animal soul. And from that, you're giving it away to tzedakah. That's a much greater engagement of your being through giving of charity from the money that you worked hard for. Now, what happens if you didn't work hard for it? You got an inheritance, right? Or we got a large donation here, Chabad. You didn't have to work hard for it. Let's say, right? So says the Alter Rebbe, since I could have used that money that I got as an inheritance, I did, or I just clicked a couple of buttons, made the right decisions in the stock market, and today was a great day, and I cashed it all in. So I didn't really work hard, a couple of clicks here and there, and today, people sit behind a desk, make a couple of clicks, and they earn lots of money, right? Yet with that money, I could have bought my food and drink. Or I could have bought a better food and drink. Or I could have bought a nicer house for me, a better car for me. Right? And what I did instead was I gave it to tzedakah, I gave charity. In other words, I could have bought something to give more vitality to my body and animal soul, give more pleasure and more comfort and so on. And I gave it to tzedakah. I gave it to charity. That engages more of the person's vital soul and body than any other act that you do. With one act of charity, one elevates a great deal of one's vital soul, faculties, and the powers than any other mitzvah. Therefore, charity is superior to all other mitzvahs, including the study of Torah, which we're doing now. Although tomorrow, we're going to object to that statement I just made.
Okay, so pause, put a pause on any comments, right?
Yeah, there's a pause, a big pause, the great pause. Yeah. But very powerful idea. But we do see how invaluable tzedakah charity is. Any questions? So we say hi to Joe in Washington State, John in North Carolina, Yesim in Turkey, Julia in Pennsylvania, Tim in Texas, Daphne, South Carolina, David in Liban, New York, Patricia in Ohio, Diane is in Arizona, Michael in Germany. In Budapest, we have Tunda, Rosa. Stan is in London, England. Darren in the Philippines. June in Australia. Probably going to sleep now. Michelle is in, you have to remind me, Michelle. Who else is with us? Henya is in New York. Ron, Boker Tov. Cindy is in Florida. David is in California. Jesse. Hi, you still in Montreal, Jesse? Martha is in, I don't know. Amy is in Colorado. Martha in Seattle. Washington. Lisa is in the Bay Area, California. All right. We have Rachel in South Carolina. We have Jen with us. We have
Excuse me.
a few other handles I don't get. John. All right, amazing. Beautiful. Chaim. What's up, Jesse? Okay, welcome. Thank you for joining. Marilyn is with us, Las Vegas.
How was breakfast there?
Rona?
What, throwing out that breakfast?
Kosovo.
Well, I thought you had to look for someone. Maybe for you. No, I haven't. Then I have to throw it out.
Okay, just wait. Maybe someone's going to come. Don't be so eager.
Not eager. Offering to, nothing.
Oh, that's okay. That's good eagerness. That's good eagerness. All right, folks. Rambam is coming up. Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you from Chabad Zichron Kedesh Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and pleasure to share Tanya with you. Tomorrow we'll continue and bring a different idea. And, till then,